Well, I've had plenty of these over the years, so I thought you might fancy a quick walk around of a Mark III Cortina. So I brought this one into the yard, kind of sight unseen. She's a little bit worse than I thought it was, so I think I'm going to move her on to somebody else. But I thought I'd give you a quick tour around it anyway. Might get it going. If it doesn't go on the weekend, we might mess around and see if we can get it to start. But she's been sat for 25 years. So I mean, it's all there if you want to restore a Mark III, but you got to want to restore a Mark III for this. These were great cars, the Mark III Cortina. This was when they really embraced the American style. I mean, after the Mark II, which was, I think, designed by Roy Haynes, the man who went later on to design the Marina. By the time they designed the Marina, Ford had moved on away from the smaller, tighter, compact cars of the sort of 60s, and they started to become the bigger, wider, cars that we know today, really. Like the Cortina was the first of the bigger cars. The Sierra was even slightly bigger again, even based on Cortina mechanics. But this one's reasonably solid. Usually they're rotten around the wheel arches. This one is kind of okay. It's nothing fantastic anyway, but it's not rotten. Same with the doors. Seem to be okay. But the front wings seem alright. It's usually fairly rotten. This one has a pretty reasonable floor. It's good in the inners. Down, it's usually rotten in here. This door does not open. So in fact, she's a 3-door. No idea why it does not. Seized handle. Who knows? I haven't spent any time kicking around these at the moment. Really very American style at the back. Somebody's done it. You obviously lost the boot key at some point in time. Fitted with the Joe, it's been a long time since I managed to get my finger into one of these. There we go. This is incredibly solid in here, surprisingly, but also very ugly. This car needs fully pulling apart and doing probably. Boot lid's alright. Like, it needs a real dedicated person to want to pull it apart, give it a full resto, because you're just going to have to clear it all up. So this is what happens generally when you put cars in sheds for years and years and years. What happens is they sort of look okay, but you're doing a lot of paint work and a lot of chasing just to fix the little bits and pieces. Relatively tidy inside. Oh, forgot you can't wear a hat inside a Cortina. Floor's pretty reasonable, you're just starting to see it start to go over the one edge. That'll for sure turn into a hole. Dash is reasonable. One crack, but you get away with that. Very basic, this being a 1600. Cortina really badge engineered these to oblivion. I mean, what Ford did with these is this was the first car that had so many different variants. The old Cortina was super deluxe, so on and so forth. And this came in everything from, you had L, XL, GL, GXL. Then you had gears, later on in the one. I think it was a GXL only Mark III. I don't think the gear came out to the Mark IV. But they badge engineer everything. This would be wood trim, of course, in the 2000s. But this is a basic one. This hasn't even got the covered door panels into the back of it. My God, this was your budget base Repmobile spec one. Show you under the hood. This is a last of the Kents as well. It's very Torino again on the front. Front valance is rotten, which they all were pretty much straight out of the factory. Bonnet's got a little hole or two in it, but it's not too bad. This is very surface rusty. Alright, gradually going back to holes in the places they hold water at the back. And of course on the top of these nice easy flat panels to fix, of course. And all the relatively other stuff is pretty good. It's pretty tidy. No options with this. Kent, the engine turns, but it does not run. These were famous for rusting to pieces underneath. And I don't know how much I can show with this, but it's all sort of good in here. They used to rot down here in the British ones, but this one seems to be pretty good. bottom of this guard stand to go. Yeah, the usual rock just down here. That's pretty standard. Rest of it seems okay. You know, it's not hanging at the floor anywhere here, but there's definitely bits that need to it. Go ahead, have a quick look at the back. I'll show you the other side. The reason I'm doing this is because there's some people who want to buy this, and they can certainly take it off my hands. Yeah, this side looks a little bit better. Just some flaky paint and so on. But it's a full resto. You know, this is the problem. People drive a car into a shed, they think they're going to pull it out 20 years later, and it's going to be fine, and it never ever is. You know, they underestimate the amount of work they require. Yeah, it looks okay. This is fairly reasonable. You know, these had mostly died out in the 80s, really, in the UK. It's because if you design a car that really has all of the styling cues of the 70s, like the Coke bottle styling, which is, you know, the swervy bit here, that's where everything sort of starts to go wrong. Because by the 80s, everything was square and blocky, and this beautiful curve here that everybody really liked, that swoopy thing down the side, was outdated. So if you drove a Mark III Cortina in the 80s, you were poor. You know, that's Ford was spectacularly good at making you feel that, you know, you had the old design, and the Cortina was probably the head of that. The Mark I to the Mark II was a massive change. The Mark III to the Mark IV was a massive change. The Mark V was just really a facelift of the Mark IV, and they were getting ready for the Sierra. The Sierra took a little bit longer to plan because it was more aerodynamic and more sort of well designed, I guess, for a jelly mold shape, and really didn't really take off that well to start off with. I mean, it was a real eye turner when it came out, but that really didn't sort of change much else for it. The same basic design of the Sierra was the same as the Cortina, same sort of front end, same rear end, not really astronomically different. You know, why change something if it works well, right? But yeah, funny thing about the Cortina, especially the Mark III, well, only the Mark III really, no wind noise, and I don't know why. The shape of it just made it quiet, and it was a quiet, comfortable, nice car, and everybody really liked it. But it had a massive act to follow after the Mark II, especially the 1600E, which was everyone loved. Like, and the Lotus Cortinas. There wasn't really a sporty version of the Mark III. There was a GT early on, but that quickly faded out of the picture. And then you had the GX, GXLs, etc. The GTs, the early ones, especially the two doors, if you got one of those, man, hats off. It's a rare car. Really cool, really comfortable, and really interesting. So I hope you liked a little bit of a walk around them and a bit of an interesting chat about them. I mean, they came with all kinds of engines. 1300s was the lowest, 1300 Kent. Then a 1600 Kent, then the 1600 overhead cam, and then finally the 2-litre overhead cam. In South Africa, I think you might have had a 3-litre version. If you did, sort of tell me about it. We'll actually take one of these up for a drive at some point in time later, and I'll show you more about them, because I actually quite like the Mark III Cortina, and it's probably about time I started taking it out for cars that were a little bit better than this one. Cars that we can drive and cars we can show you around. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you soon.